The heavy iron gate slammed shut with a clang, jarring my eardrums. The smell of rust mixed with damp mildew rushed in, completely blocking out the last ray of sunlight. I leaned against the cold wall, watching the embracing figures outside the iron gate, and the corners of my mouth couldn't help but turn up. The man's voice was filled with undisguised ruthlessness, like a venomous ice pick stabbing me. Spend the next 5 years in here and think about how to apologize to Rachel. The woman in his arms leaned weakly on his shoulder, revealing a pale but smug face. None other than my good bestie Rachel. I remember her holding my hand and crying yesterday, saying she was worried that I would be misunderstood by the man. Then, she turned around with forged evidence and cried like a rain-soaked pear blossom in front of him, saying that I had embezzled company funds and even tried to push her down the stairs. And the man I had loved for 3 whole years wouldn't even listen to a single word of explanation from me, directly using his connections to send me to this dark and dismal place. Honey, don't be angry, my sister, she may have just been confused for a moment. Rachel's voice was soft, with a false sense of kindness, but the provocation in her eyes couldn't be hidden. The man patted her back, his voice instantly softening. Completely different from the harshness he had shown me just moments before. Don't be afraid, baby, I'm here, no one can bully you anymore. What she owes you, she'll never be able to repay in this lifetime. With that, he looked up at me, casting a cold glance my way, an expression devoid of any of the warmth of days gone by, replaced only by disgust and decisiveness. The sound of footsteps gradually faded away, leaving me alone in the prison cell. I slowly slid down to the ground, the cold floor transmitting its chill through the thin prison uniform, but my heart was burning fiercely. It wasn't grievance, it wasn't sadness, it was overwhelming hatred and a long-planned resolve. 5 years, apology, do they deserve it? From inside the collar, I carefully felt out a small packet wrapped in layers of plastic. Inside was the poison I had prepared long ago. It was 3 months ago when I discovered Rachel secretly rummaging through the drawers in my study. And I had the foresight to take precautions. I asked a trusted old Chinese medicine practitioner to get me some herbs that could induce a state of suspended animation, and ground them into powder. At the time, I still had a glimmer of hope, thinking that the man wouldn't be so heartless towards me. But now it seems I was fortunate to have made preparations early. There are no mirrors in the prison cell, but I can imagine what I look like now: disheveled hair, pale face, bloodshot eyes. A perfect picture of someone driven to the brink. That's just right. The more miserable I look, the more it will put them off guard. I remember 3 years ago, when I started the business with that man. Back then, we had nothing, crammed into a small, 10-square-meter rented room, barely scraping by. I took out all my savings and borrowed money from my family, accompanied him to court clients and negotiate deals, often so busy that we couldn't eat a hot meal until late at night. Once, in order to close a big deal, I went to see a client in the pouring rain, and came back drenched and with a high fever. The man held me in his arms, heartbroken and shedding tears, saying that he would make sure I lived the best life in the future. Back then, the love in his eyes was so genuine, so real that I thought we could go on like this forever. But who would have thought that when the company grew bigger and he had Rachel by his side, everything changed? Rachel was my childhood best friend. I treated her like my own younger sister, always thinking of her when I had good things, and even when she couldn't find a job, I took the initiative to recruit her into our company, letting her be my assistant by my side. I thought I had opened my heart to her, and she would always remember our friendship. But I forgot that people change, especially when faced with the temptation of money and power. Percent Rachel saw how good the man was to me, saw everything I had, and jealousy had long been planted in her heart. She began to speak ill of me in front of the man, sow discord between us, and gradually erode our relationship. And the man, in the daily flattery and compliments, gradually lost himself. He began to feel that I was aggressive and didn't understand tenderness, not like Rachel, who was petite and understanding. He forgot who was with him when he started from scratch, who stayed with him when he was most in need. Just a month ago, there was an accounting problem at the company, with a full 500,000 missing. I was busy checking the accounts when Rachel suddenly ran to the man and said she had personally seen me transfer a sum of money to my private account and even produced a forged transfer record. The man was furious at the time, stormed into the office and pointed his finger at my nose, calling me greedy and ungrateful. I was dumbfounded at the time. I explained to him that the money was for paying the supplier's invoices, and there were transfer vouchers to prove it, but he wouldn't listen at all. Rachel was adding fuel to the fire, saying that I must have planned to run away with the money long ago, and pretended to say that if she hadn't discovered it early, the company would have been emptied by me. Later I found out that the money was secretly transferred by Rachel. She used the money to buy luxury goods and designer bags, and also forged my transfer records. And the man, because of his trust in Rachel and his prejudice against me, was unwilling to do even the most basic investigation, and directly convicted me. Thinking of this, I clutched the paper bag in my hand even tighter. I pulled out the suicide note I had written long ago from my pocket. It was a piece of paper torn from a notebook, with only one sentence: "I owe no one, you owe me." The handwriting was scrawled. Bearing a sense of resolution after despair, I placed the suicide note in a conspicuous place next to me, then opened the paper packet and poured the powder inside into my mouth. The powder had a bitter, herbal taste, causing me to cough a few times. Before long, my eyelids began to droop. My limbs gradually lost their strength, and my consciousness slowly faded. Before completely losing consciousness, I had only one thought in my mind: Ethan, Rachel, you just wait. If I don't die, I'll be back. I won't squat in this prison for 5 years for nothing. What you owe me, I will take back with interest, bit by bit. I don't know how long it had been when I was awakened by a slight shaking. I struggled to open my eyes, and the first thing I saw was a familiar face. It was Mr. Chen, my dad's former driver, and the only person who knew about and helped with my fake death plan this time. "Miss, you're awake." Mr. Chen's voice was very low, with a hint of urgency. "Quick, we have to leave immediately. I've taken care of everything. They think you really committed suicide and are arranging the funeral. This is our only chance." I struggled to sit up, still feeling a bit weak. Mr. Chen quickly helped me and handed me a plain coat that he had prepared in advance. "Put this on. We'll go out the back door. There's a car waiting outside." I nodded and quickly changed into my coat. Mr. Chen pushed a cart loaded with a corpse. I curled up in the cart, covering myself with a cloth. The sound of the cart wheels rolling through the silent corridor was especially clear, and my heart was in my throat, afraid of being discovered, as I walked smoothly out of the prison gate. I couldn't help but look back at the cold iron door. "Ethan, Rachel, our game has just begun. I will no longer be as weak as before, nor will I believe in so-called love and friendship. From today onwards, I will live only for myself and fight only for revenge." Sitting in the car arranged by Mr. Chen, I watched the scenery outside the window rushing backwards, and took a deep breath. The air no longer had the musty smell of the prison, but instead had a hint of sweet freedom. I knew that the road ahead would not be easy. I would have to live in anonymity, secretly plan, and collect their evidence bit by bit, so that they would pay the price for what they had done. But I'm not afraid. Because I have nothing left to lose. The love I lost, I will destroy with my own hands. The betrayed friendship, I will make it pay the most painful price. Everything that was taken from me, I will take it back bit by bit. The car drove further and further away, farther and farther from that place full of pain. I closed my eyes and silently said to myself, "Keep going. You can do it." The flame of revenge burned fiercely in my heart, illuminating my path forward. The car drove for a whole day, stopping in an alley of a remote town until it was almost dark. Mr. Chen helped me carry my simple luggage and led me into an inconspicuous 2-story building. As he opened the door, he said, "Miss, this is the old house of a distant relative of mine. It's been empty for several years, very safe. And no one will find you here." I walked into the house, which was simply furnished but spotlessly clean, with freshly bought rice, flour, and oil on the table. Mr. Chen handed me a cloth bag, saying, "Here are the things you asked for, a new ID card and household registration book. The name is Evelyn, and the place of origin is a small mountain village in the neighboring province. The identity information is completely new, so you can use it with confidence. I took the cloth bag, opened it, and saw that the woman on the ID card had some resemblance to me, but she looked more ordinary than I originally did, with a simple ponytail and a bit of a rustic air about her. That's good. The less conspicuous, the less likely to be discovered. I looked up at Mr. Chen and said, "Mr. Chen, thank you so much this time. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to get out of that place at all." Mr. Chen waved his hand, his eyes a little red. "Miss, why are you being so polite with me? When my family had an accident, the old man helped me without saying a word, and I will remember this kindness for the rest of my life. Those two heartless bastards harmed you. So it's only right that I help. Just stay here and be at ease. I'll come over every month to bring you some things. And by the way, bring you news from the outside." Mr. Chen gave me a few more safety instructions, such as trying to go out as little as possible, buying things at the small supermarket at the entrance of the alley, and not getting too close to the neighbors, and then left in a hurry. I was the only one left in the house, so quiet that I could hear my own breathing. I leaned against the doorframe, looking at the dim yellow streetlights outside the window, knowing in my heart that from this moment on, I was dead, and the one who survived was Evelyn, a person who lived only for revenge. For the next month, besides recuperating, I learned about the outside world through the news Mr. Chen brought. Mr. Chen said that after my death, the man and Rachel only put on a show by holding a simple funeral. They didn't even properly settle my ashes. Then, they took the shares I left in the company and completely took control of the entire company. Rachel was even more elated. Relying on her man's favor, she moved directly into the house I used to live in, wore my clothes, put on my jewelry, and flaunted it everywhere in her social circle, saying that she was the ultimate winner. Once, she even wore the only cheongsam my mother left me to a company dinner, and Mr. Chen secretly took a picture and showed it to me. Looking at Rachel's arrogant face in the photo, the teacup in my hand shattered on the ground, and shards splashed everywhere. But I quickly calmed down. Now is not the time to be impulsive. I have no power and no money. A head-on collision would only be a futile gesture. I must remain calm and collect their evidence bit by bit, and when the time is right, deliver a fatal blow. Once I was almost fully recovered, I started thinking about how to get close to the company's core information. I knew that while the man and Rachel controlled the company, there were still a few old employees who had started the business with me who were already dissatisfied with the man's actions, but they were just afraid to speak out. If I could win these people over, it would be of great help to me in gathering evidence. To avoid suspicion, I found a part-time job at a print and copy shop near the town. The job didn't pay much, but it was easy, and I could get access to various printing and copying tasks, which would make it easier for me to forge some documents later. More importantly, the computers in the print and copy shop had internet access, so I could use my job as a cover to secretly monitor the man's company. Every day after work, I would shut myself in my room and organize the information I had collected on my computer. I discovered that after the man took control of the company, he engaged in many illegal activities in order to maximize profits, such as tax evasion, falsifying financial statements, and even collaborating with some illegal businesses to produce substandard products. And Rachel, relying on the man's trust, behaved recklessly in the company, not only embezzling public funds to buy luxury goods, but also arranging for her relatives to be placed in important positions in the company, causing widespread resentment within the company. Once, Mr. Chen brought news that the company was recently in talks with a major client for cooperation. If this cooperation succeeded, the man would be able to gain a firm foothold and even take the company public. My heart stirred. This was a good opportunity. If I could sabotage this cooperation, I could not only give the man a blow but also create more dissatisfaction towards him within the company. To understand the specifics of this collaboration, I spent a whole week using the computer at the typing and photocopying shop to find relevant information bit by bit. I also asked Mr. Chen for help, contacting a former accountant from the old company. This accountant had been fired by Rachel for refusing to help the man falsify accounts, and had been holding his breath ever since. I had Mr. Chen disguise me as a supplier who wanted to provide raw materials to the company, and arranged to meet the old accountant at a secluded tea house. When I saw the old accountant, he looked much older than before. When he saw me, he was stunned for a moment, and then his eyes turned red. "Boss, I knew you wouldn't just disappear like that. Those two guys are no good. I saw it a long time ago." I quickly made a shushing gesture and whispered, "Uncle Lee, keep your voice down. My current identity can't be revealed. I'm looking for you to inquire about the cooperation between the company and that major client. You know, if they go public, they'll be even more lawless in the future." Uncle Lee nodded and lowered his voice. "Boss, don't worry, I'll tell you everything I know. This cooperation with the major client hinges on a batch of raw materials provided by our company, but these raw materials simply don't meet the standards. It was man who wanted to save money and found a small workshop to produce them, and he even asked me to forge the quality inspection report. If this is exposed, not only will the cooperation fall through, but the company will be investigated." I was overjoyed. This was a key piece of evidence. I asked Uncle Lee to secretly give me a copy of the relevant records of the forged quality inspection report back then, and Uncle Lee agreed without hesitation. "Boss, I've wanted to expose them for a long time, but I just didn't have the chance. You wait, I'll send the stuff to you tomorrow." The next day, Uncle Lee indeed gave me a copy. Holding this copy, I felt more confident. I didn't immediately expose this evidence. Instead, I carefully researched the background of that major client. I discovered that this client valued product quality above all else, and if they found any quality issues with a partner, they would not only terminate the cooperation but also pursue liability for breach of contract. Using an anonymous email, I sent the forged quality inspection report and photos of the small workshop's raw materials to the quality control department of that major client, to make them believe it. I also explained in detail in the email the problems with this batch of raw materials and how the man had forged the report. After sending the email, I started waiting for news. In those days, I was both nervous and excited, staring at the computer every day, hoping Mr. Chen would bring good news. Finally, on the third day after sending the email, Mr. Chen rushed over to tell me, "Miss, it's done. That major client directly terminated their cooperation with the man and even sued him, demanding compensation for losses. The company is in chaos right now." The man was so angry that he smashed everything in the office. Rachel is also panicked, trying to find someone to settle this matter. But no one is paying attention to her. Listening to Mr. Chen's words, a smile couldn't help but appear on my lips. "This is just the beginning, Ethan. Rachel, are you feeling the panic? Next, I will make you lose everything you care about bit by bit, just like you did to me back then. But I also know that although this blow has disrupted them, it is not enough to completely defeat them. The man still has a lot of resources and will definitely try to salvage the situation. I can't be careless. I must take this opportunity to collect more evidence and win over more people to prepare for the next attack." I asked Mr. Chen to continue to help me monitor the company's dynamics, especially the reactions of those old employees. At the same time, I also began planning my next steps. I know that Rachel definitely left a lot of traces when she framed me for embezzling public funds back then. As long as I can find those traces, I can prove my innocence and completely ruin Rachel's reputation. During my days in the town, I prepared for revenge every day. During the day, I was Evelyn, the inconspicuous clerk at the typing and photocopying shop. At night, I became a strategist and avenger. I am no longer as emotional as I used to be, and I take every step carefully. And every decision is carefully considered. I also began to reflect on my former self. Back then, I was too naive, taking love and friendship too seriously, thinking that as long as I gave my heart, I would get something in return. But reality gave me a resounding slap in the face, making me realize that you can't judge a book by its cover, and not everyone is worth pouring your heart out to, especially when it comes to interests. Many people will reveal their true nature. One night, as I looked at the moon outside the window, I suddenly understood a truth. it's better to rely on yourself than to place your hopes on others. In the past, I treated men as my whole world and Rachel as my closest person, but I ended up being betrayed by them in collaboration. Now, although I'm lonely, I'm very clear-headed, I know what I want and how to fight for it. The cancellation of the major client had been for half a month. The man spent a lot of money to settle the lawsuit privately, but the company's reputation was already ruined. Several old clients took the initiative to terminate their cooperation, and the order volume dropped by more than half. Every time Mr. Chen came to deliver the news, he would bring some jokes about the man and Rachel, saying that they quarreled in the company every day. The man blamed Rachel for forcing the old accountant away, cutting off his retreat, and Rachel cried and made a fuss, saying that she was innocent. Hearing this news, I wasn't too surprised, but I did ask Mr. Chen to pay more attention to the company's finance department. When Rachel embezzled those 500,000 public funds, she definitely had to go through the financial process, and even if she was very careful, it would be impossible for her to leave no trace. Uncle Lee was an old accountant, but he was fired early, so he might not know the specific whereabouts of the money. I need to find someone who knows more about it. That evening, I was organizing files in the typing and photocopying shop when a woman in business attire came in, looking hurried, wanting to photocopy a stack of invoices. As I took the documents, I caught a glimpse of the invoice header, which was the name of a man's company, and the signature at the bottom was MS Jong. I was struck by this, as I knew this MS Jong. She was a veteran in the company's finance department, and when I was in charge of finance, she was my most capable assistant, a steady and discreet person. After Rachel took over finance, she had been wanting to replace her, but MS Jong held a lot of the company's old accounts in her hands, so Rachel didn't dare to act rashly. While making the copies, I deliberately struck up a conversation. "Sis, judging by how anxious you look, are you rushing back to meet a deadline? Has your company been busy lately? I've heard from many people that your orders have decreased, and you're laying people off." MS Jong was stunned for a moment, then sighed and said, "You're telling me, we lost a big client a while ago, and the boss is furious, forcing us to work overtime every day. There haven't been any layoffs, but our salaries are almost a month late. I have no choice, I need the money at home." She avoided eye contact as she spoke, clearly preoccupied. I handed her the copied documents and said in a low voice, "Sis, you don't seem like someone who's short on money. Did you run into some trouble? I've worked here for a long time and know some reliable people. Maybe I can help." MS Jong stared at me for a few seconds, as if judging whether I was trustworthy. After a while, she took out a slip of paper from her bag, wrote down the address and time of a tea house, and said, 8 o'clock tonight, if you can really help, come here to find me." After saying that, she paid the bill and left in a hurry. After getting off work, I changed my clothes and arrived at the tea house 10 minutes early. MS Jong was already there, and when she saw me come in, she quickly waved me over to sit down. As soon as I sat down, she said anxiously, "Young lady, I'm only telling you this because you seem like a kind person. It's not really about the salary. It's about that woman, Rachel. Last year, she secretly transferred 500,000 from the company and asked me to falsify the accounts to cover it up. I refused, and she threatened me, saying she would expose my son's fight at school. My son is taking the college entrance exam next year, and if he gets a criminal record, his future will be ruined." My heart skipped a beat. This was truly finding something after searching high and low. I leaned forward and said softly, "MS Jong, don't panic. Actually, I'm not an ordinary person. I'm here to seek justice for my former boss. Rachel framed her for embezzling public funds using this 500,000, right?" MS Jong's face changed instantly, and she stammered, Are you the boss's people?" I nodded and took out the copy of the fake quality inspection report that Uncle Lee had given me to show her. "Look, we already have evidence of their falsifying accounts, and now all we need is what's in your hands to completely bring them down." Seeing the copy, MS Jong's tears suddenly fell. The boss treated me well back then. I wanted to help her a long time ago, But I really didn't dare to risk my son's future. I quickly said, Ms. Jong, don't worry, as long as you give me the evidence of Rachel's embezzlement, I guarantee that your son won't be implicated. The things Rachel threatened you with, we can record them as evidence. At that time, not only will your suspicion be cleared, but we can also sue her for blackmail. After my repeated persuasion, Ms. Jong finally relented and agreed to secretly bring me Rachel's bank statements and false accounting records of embezzlement the next day. As she was leaving, she grabbed my hand and said, "Little girl, I believe in you. You must help the boss get justice and save my son too." I nodded vigorously, knowing in my heart that this time, Rachel's true colors would be exposed. The next day at noon, Ms. Jong indeed took advantage of the lunch break to stuff a stack of documents to me. Inside were Rachel's bank transfer records, chat logs of her forcing Ms. Jong to falsify accounts, and even the original draft of Rachel forging my transfer voucher back then. These evidences are conclusive and sufficient to prove my innocence, and also enough to send Rachel to jail for good. After obtaining the evidence, I didn't immediately expose it, but started planning how to maximize the effect. I knew the man was currently overwhelmed by the company's losses. And if he were to find out at this time that the woman he doted on had not only embezzled public funds but also deceived him for so long, he would definitely collapse completely. Moreover, the employees in the company were already dissatisfied with Rachel, and if the evidence were released, it would definitely cause public outrage, and then their internal affairs would be in chaos. First, I anonymously sent the chat records of Rachel forcing Ms. Jong to falsify accounts and the details of embezzlement to several senior employees of the company, as well as some employees who were squeezed out by Rachel's relatives. These people had long harbored resentment towards Rachel, and when they saw the evidence, they immediately caused an uproar in the company's internal group. Mr. Chen said that the company was unable to function normally that afternoon. Employees surrounded Rachel's office demanding an explanation. And Rachel was so scared that she hid inside, afraid to come out. Eventually, the man had to escort her away with security guards. Although the man protected Rachel, he must have had his doubts. Mr. Chen said that after the man returned home, he locked himself in the study and looked at the evidence all night. The next day, he confronted Rachel. Rachel initially refused to admit it, crying and saying that someone had framed her, but when the man took out the bank statements, she collapsed on the ground, speechless. In the end, she could only admit that she had embezzled public funds, but she blamed it on me, saying that it was all because I was jealous of her being with the man that I forced her to do so. I found it laughable when I heard this. Rachel is still lying even now. But this is for the best, letting the man see her true colors. Mr. Chen said that the man was really angry this time, slapped Rachel in the face right there and then, and locked her up at home, preventing her from going to the company. When the employees in the company saw Rachel losing power, they all stood up and exposed her misdeeds. Some said that she often deducted employee benefits, some said that she introduced the company's clients to her relatives, and some said that she deliberately made things difficult for me and ruined my project in order to get ahead back then, taking advantage of the internal chaos at the company. I anonymously sent the original drafts of Rachel's fabricated evidence to frame me, along with all the evidence of her embezzling public funds, to the Tax Bureau and the Public Security Bureau. At the same time, I organized this evidence and sent it to several local media outlets. The media was already very interested in negative news about large companies, and with the evidence being conclusive, the next day some media published related reports with headlines such as "Executive of a certain company suspected of embezzling public funds and framing former boss. There is such a secret behind it." The report sent shockwaves through the entire industry. The man's company had already suffered damage to its reputation due to previous quality issues, and now with such a huge scandal, the stock price plummeted, banks began pressing for loan repayments, and many partners terminated their contracts one after another, plunging the company into a desperate situation. The man frantically sought help from people everywhere to manage public relations. But with conclusive evidence, no one dared to help him. One night, Mr. Chen brought unexpected news. saying that the man had actually found him and wanted to ask him to help contact me. He said he was willing to return the company's shares to me and compensate me with a sum of money, just begging me to let them go. After hearing this, I sneered. Now they know to beg for mercy. When they sent me to prison, why didn't they think there would be a day like this? I had Mr. Chen reply to the man, saying that I would meet him, but only if he publicly apologized to me in front of all the company employees, admitting the crimes he and Rachel committed against me back then. I want him to lose all face in front of everyone, so he knows how miserable the consequences of betraying me are. After Mr. Chen relayed my words to the man, he hesitated for several days. I knew he was struggling, caught between his pride and dignity and a company on the verge of bankruptcy. In the end, he chose the latter and agreed to my terms. I knew in my heart that this was just another milestone on the road to revenge. Next, I would make them pay an even heavier price for their crimes. The day I started preparing to go to the company, I made a point of putting on a suit and applying light makeup. The me in the mirror had a firm gaze. Without any of the naivety and weakness I used to have, I knew that when I walked into that company, it would be the moment I completely cleared my name and made the villains pay the price. I also knew that this wasn't just for revenge, but also to reclaim the self that had been betrayed and hurt, to let her stand up again and live a more wonderful life. Before leaving, I looked at the sun outside the window and took a deep breath. The sunlight shone on me, warm and powerful. A smile crept onto my lips. Ethan, Rachel, it's time for us to settle the score. On the day we agreed to a public apology, I had Mr. Chen go to the company in advance to check for ambushes. Mr. Chen came back and told me that the man had cleared out the company's main conference room and all employees were required to be present. Even a few retired employees had been invited back. It seemed he wanted to save face as much as possible. I sneered. Face was something he had already thrown away the day he sent me to prison. I didn't arrive on time, but deliberately showed up half an hour late. When I pushed open the door to the conference room, it was silent, and everyone's eyes were focused on me. The man was standing next to the podium, his face livid. Rachel was hiding behind him, her head down, her hair a mess, with none of her former arrogance. When she saw me come in, Rachel's body visibly trembled, and she quickly shrank back behind the man. I didn't look at them, and went straight to the center of the stage. Picking up the microphone, familiar environment, familiar people. But my mood was completely different. I glanced at the employees below the stage and saw Uncle Lee, MS, Jong, and many of the old partners who started the business with me back then. Their eyes held surprise, sympathy, and a hint of expectation. I took a deep breath and said, "Hello everyone. I know many of you thought I was dead, including these two on stage." My voice wasn't loud, but every word clearly reached everyone's ears. The man's face turned even more unpleasant. He took a step forward, wanting to say something, but I raised my hand to stop him. "Don't rush. Today isn't about me speaking, it's about you speaking. Didn't you want to apologize to me, in front of everyone? Explain clearly how you and Rachel framed me for embezzling public funds and sent me to prison back then." A stir immediately erupted from the audience. Although everyone had seen the evidence before, they were still shocked to hear me say it in person. Rachel suddenly screamed, "You're lying. You embezzled the public funds yourself. My husband and I only exposed you. You're back now just to ruin us." "I'm lying," I sneered, taking out the original draft of Rachel's forged transfer voucher and her bank statements from my bag. "Everyone, take a good look. This is the voucher Rachel forged back then. The signature on it is imitating mine, and handwriting experts have already authenticated it. This is her bank statement. The record of 500,000 in public funds transferred to her account is clear, and the time is the day after the company's accounts had problems. I have already handed these evidences to the Public Security Bureau. I believe it won't be long before everyone gets an explanation." I distributed copies of the evidence to the employees below the stage. Everyone passed them around, and the discussion grew louder and louder. Someone pointed at Rachel and cursed, "So it was really you who framed the boss." I knew the boss wasn't that kind of person. "No wonder you wear gold and silver every day, so you've been using public funds." Rachel was so frightened that her face turned pale and she collapsed on the ground. unable to speak. The man looked at the scene before him and knew that there was no point in arguing anymore. He gritted his teeth and said with difficulty, "I'm sorry. I was confused back then and listened to Rachel. I sent you to prison without investigating clearly. I apologize to you." His voice was very soft and without any sincerity. "That's it." I raised my eyebrows. "Ethan, you not only framed me but also seized my shares in the company, taking my hard work for yourself. You think a simple apology is enough?" I paused, raising my voice and said, "I'm here today not only to clear my name but also to announce something. To the old employees who started the company with me, and to the employees who were unjustly fired by Rachel, I have founded a new company and invite you to join. The salary is twice as good as here, and you'll still get share dividends." As soon as I finished speaking, the audience erupted. Uncle Lee was the first to stand up and say, "Boss, I'm with you. I couldn't stand what they were doing back then. If I hadn't been fired, I would have exposed them long ago." Ms. Jong also stood up and said, "I'll go too. We feel at ease working with you." Immediately afterwards, more than half of the employees stood up and expressed their willingness to follow me. The man looked at the scene before him and completely broke down. He rushed over to grab my arm, but Mr. Chen stopped him. Mr. Chen was tall and strong, and the man was no match for him at all. He was pushed back repeatedly. The man pointed at me and cursed, "You poisonous woman, I was blind to have fallen in love with you." "Love me?" I laughed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Ethan, you've never loved me, only the benefits I could bring you. You said you loved me when I was helping you build your empire from scratch. Now that I'm useless, you've teamed up with Rachel to frame me. A man like you isn't even worthy of talking about love." I ignored him and turned to the employees below the stage, saying, "Those who are willing to follow me, I will send the new company address to you tomorrow at 9 in the morning. I won't force those who don't want to leave, but I want to remind everyone that this company is now on the verge of bankruptcy and involves multiple violations. It will be shut down sooner or later. Think for yourselves." After speaking, I turned around and left. Mr. Chen followed behind me. As I walked out of the company gate, the sun was shining brightly. Many employees followed behind us, saying they wanted to go see the new company right away. I looked back at the building I had poured countless efforts into. Without the slightest bit of attachment, the past is the past, and what I need to do now is create my own new future. The new company was founded with a stash of private money that Mr. Chen helped me keep, and the location was chosen in a nice office building. Although the scale is not large, everyone works together with great enthusiasm. Uncle Lee is in charge of finance, Ms. Jong is in charge of administration, and other old employees are also performing their duties, and the company quickly got on track. The man's company completely collapsed after most of its employees resigned. The bank pressed for loan repayments. Suppliers came to demand payment, and the media chased after reports every day. The man was overwhelmed and could only sell assets to repay debts. Rachel was also investigated by the Public Security Bureau for embezzlement and false accusations, and she was summoned every day, and her mental state deteriorated. One day, Rachel suddenly found the entrance to my new company, kneeling on the ground and begging me to let her go. Her hair was graying, and her clothes were tattered. She was a completely different person from the glamorous woman she used to be. She hugged my leg and cried, "Sister, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have framed you or stolen your man. Please, have mercy and let me go. I'll never dare to do it again." Looking at her like this, I felt no sympathy, only the pleasure of revenge. I squatted down and said coldly, "Rachel, I treated you like my own sister back then, pouring my heart out to you. How did you treat me when you sent me to prison? Why didn't you think about asking me to let you go? Now you realize you were wrong, but it's too late." I pushed her away and had the security guards kick her out. Watching her being dragged away by the security guards, I knew in my heart that this wasn't the end. Rachel and the man's crimes must be punished by law. This is not something I can decide, nor can it be offset by a simple apology from her. Not long after, the man was arrested by the Public Security Bureau for multiple crimes, including tax evasion and the production and sale of counterfeit goods. Rachel was also prosecuted for embezzlement and false accusation. I went to the court hearing that day, watching them both standing in the dock, their faces pale and their eyes hollow. I felt not a single ripple in my heart. As the court session ended, the man was being led away by the bailiffs when he suddenly broke free, rushed in front of me, and said with red eyes, "I'm not reconciled. If it weren't for you, how would I have ended up like this?" I calmly looked at him. "Ethan, you ended up like this because of your own actions. It was you who betrayed love, betrayed trust, and you who ruined everything for yourself." The man was dragged away by the bailiffs, still cursing incessantly. Rachel, on the other hand, fainted the moment she heard the verdict. The court sentenced the man to 7 years in prison and Rachel to 5 years, and their assets were frozen to pay off the company's debts and fines, although they have been sanctioned by the law. I know that my revenge is not entirely over. I want them to know that they have lost more than just freedom and wealth, but also the happiness that was once within their reach. I want them to reflect in prison on what they did wrong. Meanwhile, my new company was developing better and better. Because we operated with integrity and our product quality was excellent, we quickly gained market recognition, orders increased, and the scale grew larger. Many former clients of the man's company actively sought to cooperate with us, saying they trusted my character. One day, Uncle Lee said to me, "Boss, the company is doing so well now, should we consider going public?" I smiled and shook my head. "No rush, our priority now is to solidify the foundation. Going public is not the goal. Making the company successful and ensuring that the brothers who follow me can live a good life is what I want to do." Uncle Lee nodded and said with emotion, "Boss, you are more mature and responsible than before. If that man had half your vision back then, he wouldn't have ended up where he is today." I smiled and said nothing. After experiencing so much, I am no longer the naive little girl I once was. I have learned to be calm, to be patient, to survive in adversity, and to grow from betrayal. I know the road ahead is long, and I may encounter various difficulties and challenges, but I am no longer afraid. Because I know that as long as I stick to my original heart and keep my feet on the ground, nothing can defeat me. Moreover, I have a group of brothers who trust and support me, and with them by my side, I have confidence. Of course, I haven't forgotten the women who have had similar experiences to me. I started planning to establish a non-profit organization dedicated to helping women who have been falsely accused and betrayed, providing them with legal aid and psychological counseling so they can stand up again and reclaim their dignity and happiness. This is not only a redemption for the past, but also an expectation for the future. The week before the court verdict, Rachel was suddenly released on bail. After Mr. Chen found out, he quickly ran to tell me, "Miss, that woman Rachel found someone who claimed she was pregnant and applied for bail. She's out now, you have to be careful. She's ruthless and definitely won't let this go." My heart skipped a beat. Rachel is pregnant. Is it the man's child? No matter whose it is, her coming out at this time is definitely not with good intentions. I nodded and said, "I understand, Mr. Chen. Please send a few more people to follow me. And also help me check who Rachel has been in contact with recently to see if she has any unusual behavior." Over the next few days, I clearly felt that someone was following me. Sometimes when I went home from get off work, I would see a black car following me. Sometimes when I went to a restaurant near the company to eat, I would find a strange man staring at me. I knew that this must be someone sent by Rachel. She wanted to retaliate against me. I wasn't alarmed. Instead, I felt this was a perfect opportunity to get rid of Rachel for good. She's currently out on bail, and if she commits another crime, not only will her bail be revoked, but her sentence will also be increased. I deliberately pretended not to notice that I was being followed, going to and from work as usual. I just hid a micro recorder and a tracker on my person, and I also agreed with Mr. Chen that if I didn't send him a message for more than half an hour, he should call the police immediately. That afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. The man on the other end of the line had a fierce tone as he said, "Evelyn, right, we have your friend Rachel. If you want her to live, bring 500,000 in cash immediately. I'll text you the address later. Don't call the police, or we'll kill her." I sneered inwardly. Rachel really knew how to act. actually trying to pretend to be kidnapped to fool me, or wanting to lure me to a remote place to harm me. I pretended to be very anxious and said, 50,000 is too much. I can't come up with that much money in a short time. Can you reduce it? Also, you must not hurt her. I will find a way to raise the money immediately, the man said impatiently. Stop talking nonsense. You have to get the money together within an hour. If you dare to call the police, you can just wait to collect the body. Then he hung up the phone. Not long after, I received a text message with an address. An abandoned factory in the suburbs. I knew a tough battle was about to begin. I immediately called Mr. Chen, told him the situation, and asked him to bring some reliable people to ambush near the abandoned factory in advance. At the same time, I called the police to have them on standby in the surrounding area. I myself took 500,000 in cash from the company's safe, put it in a black backpack, and drove to the abandoned factory. Arriving at the entrance of the abandoned factory, I took a deep breath, pushed open the car door, and walked in. The factory was gloomy, filled with discarded machines and trash, and the air reeked of a pungent metallic odor. I walked forward a few steps and heard Rachel's voice coming from inside. Evelyn, you've finally arrived. I followed the sound and looked over. Rachel was standing next to a pile of discarded machines, surrounded by two tall men, holding iron bars in their hands. She didn't look kidnapped at all, with a ferocious smile on her face, not a trace of her previous tenderness. Rachel, you were indeed faking it, I said calmly. You went to so much trouble to lure me here just to get revenge on me. Rachel burst into laughter, the sound sharp and grating. Evelyn, if it weren't for you, how could I have ended up like this? I could have married Ethan, become the boss's wife, and lived a life of luxury, but it's all because of you. It's all gone. I'm going to make you pay. I'm going to make you die. Just you three. I raised an eyebrow. Rachel, have you forgotten that I'm not the pushover I used to be? Rachel's face changed, and she said to the two men beside her, don't waste words with her. Grab her. The two men immediately rushed towards me, waving the iron bars in their hands, looking very intimidating. But I was prepared. I dodged to the side, avoiding their attacks, and at the same time, I took out a can of pepper spray from my pocket and sprayed it into their eyes. The two men screamed in pain as the pepper spray hit their eyes, dropping the iron bars in their hands. I seized the opportunity to rush forward and kicked one of the men in the stomach, knocking him to the ground. The other man covered his eyes, flailing his fists wildly. I dodged to the side, grabbed his arm, and twisted it forcefully. With a snap, his arm dislocated. Rachel turned pale when she saw the people she had brought get taken care of so quickly. She turned around and tried to run. How could I let her get away? I rushed over, grabbed her hair, and yanked her back. Rachel screamed and struggled, trying to break free from my grip. Evelyn, let me go. I'm pregnant. You can't hit me. Pregnant, I sneered. Rachel, do you think I'll believe you? If you were really pregnant, would you be fighting me so desperately? I already checked. You're not pregnant at all. The so-called proof of pregnancy is a fake you got through connections, just to get bail and then find a chance to get revenge on me. Rachel's face flushed instantly. She hadn't expected me to have investigated her background so thoroughly. She said viciously, so what if I'm not pregnant? What can you do to me? Even though Ethan is finished, I still have other connections. The worst that could happen is I spend a few more years in prison. When I get out, I still won't let you off the hook. You think you still have a chance to get out? I took out a micro recorder from my pocket. I've recorded everything you just said. Falsifying pregnancy certificates to obtain bail pending trial, and planning kidnapping and intentional injury. These charges combined are enough for you to spend the rest of your life in prison. Just then, the sound of sirens came from outside the factory, and Mr. Chen rushed in with people and the police. Seeing the police, Rachel completely broke down. She collapsed on the ground, constantly saying, "It wasn't intentional, she forced me, she's the one who harmed me." The police came over and put handcuffs on Rachel. As Rachel was being taken away by the police, she glared at me fiercely, her eyes full of resentment. I looked at her calmly, without the slightest ripple in my heart. Good and evil will be rewarded in the end. Rachel has fallen to this point today, all because she brought it upon herself. After dealing with Rachel's matter, I returned to the company. The employees were relieved to see me return safely. Ms. John came over and handed me a glass of hot water. "Boss, are you all right? We were so worried about you just now." I took the hot water, smiled. "I'm fine. I made everyone worry. This kind of thing won't happen again in the future. Rachel is completely done this time." Not long after, the court tried Rachel's new crimes. Because Rachel had forged documents to obtain bail by fraud and planned kidnapping and intentional injury, the circumstances were egregious. The court increased the penalty in accordance with the law and sentenced Rachel to 15 years in prison. When I heard the news, I was in a meeting with my employees. I just smiled faintly and continued the meeting. Having eliminated Rachel, a major concern, I can finally focus on growing the company. The new company's business is booming, and we've not only opened up the market domestically but also started to expand overseas. One day, a large foreign client came to the company for inspection and, impressed by the scale of our company and the quality of our products, praised us, saying, "President Lin, the quality of your company's products is excellent, and we are willing to sign a long-term cooperation agreement with you." I smiled and said, "Thank you for your trust. We will definitely repay you with the best products and services." At the moment of signing the cooperation agreement, I was filled with emotion. I was once betrayed by the person I trusted most and almost lost everything. But now, with my own efforts and persistence, I have not only stood up again, but also achieved better results than before. At night, I sit alone in my office, watching the night view outside the window. The city lights are dazzling. Just like my life now, I think of the days in prison, the thrill of faking my death to escape, and the difficulties on the road to revenge, if I had chosen to really commit suicide. None of this would exist today. I picked up my phone and called Mr. Chen to thank him for his help and support over the years. Mr. Chen smiled and said, "Miss, why are you being so polite with me? Seeing you doing so well now puts my mind at ease. If the old master knew in the afterlife, he would be proud of you too." After hanging up the phone, I thought of the man again. Although he had been sentenced to 7 years, I still wanted to visit him in prison, not out of sympathy, but to let him see how I am now, to let him know that his betrayal back then did not break me, but made me even stronger. On the weekend, I bought some fruit and went to the prison to visit the man. Through the glass, I saw that the man had aged a lot. Half of his hair was white, and his eyes no longer had the vigor they once had, only numbness and despair. When he saw me, he was stunned at first, and then his eyes were filled with surprise and shame. "You've come." The man's voice was hoarse and low. "I came to see you," I said calmly. "I want you to see that I'm doing very well now. My company is doing great, even better than the company we started together before." The man looked at me, his eyes filled with regret. "I regret it. I shouldn't have listened to Rachel back then. I shouldn't have betrayed you. If I had trusted you back then, if I had investigated the truth, I wouldn't be in this situation today. It's too late to say all this now." I said softly, "You say you regret it now, but when you sent me to prison, why didn't you think about regretting it then? You've lost more than just freedom and wealth, but also the love and trust one once had for you. Once these things are lost, they can never be found again." The man's tears fell. "I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Evelyn, can you give me another chance? When I get out, I will make it up to you. I will use the rest of my life to atone." I shook my head. "I don't need your amends, nor do I need your atonement. I came here today just to tell you that people have to be responsible for their actions, and whatever you do, you have to bear the consequences. I hope you reflect on yourself in prison and be a good person when you come out." Having said that, I stood up and turned to leave. There was no trace of longing, nor any trace of sympathy. The man kept calling my name from behind, his voice filled with despair and regret, but I didn't look back. The past is in the past, and I will no longer waste my time and energy on people who are not worth it. Walking out of the prison gates, the sunlight poured down on me, warm and bright. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. The road to revenge has come to an end, and now, what I need to do is live a good life, develop the company well, and realize my own value in life. I know that the road ahead is long, and many challenges and opportunities await me. But I'm no longer afraid, because I know that as long as I stay true to myself and keep my feet on the ground, nothing can defeat me. Moreover, I have a group of employees and friends who trust and support me. With them by my side, I have endless motivation and courage. In the 3rd month after returning from prison, my company officially announced the acquisition of the near-bankrupt business founded by the man and Rachel. On the day of the signing, many media outlets came, and the flashes of cameras kept going off. When I signed the name Evelyn on the acquisition agreement, enthusiastic applause broke out from the audience. I knew that the applause was not only for this acquisition but also for my rebirth along the way. After the acquisition, I didn't immediately lay off employees, but instead convened a company-wide meeting. Looking at the employees below the stage, who had once followed the man and Rachel but were now uneasy, I said, "I know some of you may have had misunderstandings about me, and even helped Rachel do some bad things, but I can tell you all clearly today that as long as you are willing to work diligently and abide by the company's rules and regulations, I will give you opportunities. The past grievances are written off from today." My words relieved the employees below the stage, and many said on the spot that they would work hard. After the meeting, a young accountant who had helped Rachel with false accounting found me, blushing, and said, "Director Lin, I'm sorry, Rachel threatened me back then, so I helped her with the false accounting. I know I was wrong, and I will never do it again. Please give me a chance to reform." Looking at his sincere eyes, I nodded and said, "Young people make mistakes, but the important thing is to know how to repent. How about this, you go to the finance department and follow Uncle Lee to learn. And in the future, you will be responsible for the company's account review. I hope you can prove your change with your actions." The young accountant was moved to thank me repeatedly and turned to run to work. After dealing with the company's affairs, I began to set about establishing the non-profit organization I had planned before. I named this organization Rebirth Home, specializing in providing legal aid, psychological counseling, and vocational training for women who have been framed, betrayed, or subjected to workplace bullying. I took out a portion of the company's profits as a public welfare fund, and also invited many lawyer friends and psychological experts to join. On the day Home of Rebirth was established, many media outlets and representatives of beneficiaries came. Among them was a woman who had a similar experience to mine. She was framed by her husband and best friend, losing not only her property but also being left with nothing. With the help of Home of Rebirth, she won the lawsuit, reclaimed her property, and even found a good job. At the inauguration ceremony, she held my hand and said, crying, "President Lin, if it weren't for you, I might not be alive today. You made me realize that even if a woman is betrayed, she can't give up on herself. As long as she perseveres, she can definitely stand up again." Listening to her words, I felt a mix of emotions. I founded Home of Rebirth not only to help women who have had similar experiences to mine, but also to complete my own self-redemption. Seeing the beneficiaries smile again and find hope in life makes me happier than earning any amount of money. One day, Mr. Chen said to me, "Miss, there's something I need to tell you." The doctor who helped Rachel forge the pregnancy certificate back then was investigated for accepting bribes. He confessed everything about how Rachel asked him to do it. Now Rachel's case has been reopened, and she may face additional sentencing. I listened and said calmly, "I know, this is all her own fault. Whatever punishment she deserves, she should receive it. Now, I no longer care about the fate of Rachel and the man. Their ending is their own choice and has nothing to do with me. I care more about how to run the company well and how to help more people in need." As the influence of Home of Rebirth grew, more and more women came to us for help. Once, a recent college graduate came to me, crying and saying that she had been sexually harassed by her boss at the company and threatened with dismissal if she dared to speak out. I immediately arranged for a lawyer to help her collect evidence and contacted the leaders of her company. With our efforts, the boss was fired and also subjected to legal sanctions. After this incident, more and more companies began to value the protection of women's rights in the workplace. Many companies even proactively cooperated with Rebirth Home, inviting us to provide training for their employees. Seeing all of this, My heart was filled with a sense of accomplishment. I knew that what I was doing was meaningful. It not only helped individuals but also promoted the entire society's attention to women's rights. One day, Uncle Lee said to me, "Boss, the company is growing bigger and bigger, and the influence of Rebirth Home is getting stronger and stronger. Many people see you as a role model. Would you like to write an autobiography and share your experiences to inspire more people?" I smiled and shook my head, saying, "No need, although my experience has been rough, it's just an individual case." I hope everyone can understand a principle through the Rebirth Home case. No matter how many difficulties and setbacks you encounter, never give up on yourself. No matter who betrays you, you must adhere to your own bottom line and principles. However, I still accepted an interview invitation from a TV station. During the interview, the host asked me, "Mr. Lin, after experiencing so much betrayal and hurt, do you still believe in love and friendship?" I thought for a moment and said earnestly, "I believe it. Although I have been betrayed by the person I loved most and my best friend, I know that these are just isolated cases. There are still many sincere people in this world. It's just that when we make friends and fall in love, we have to learn to keep our eyes open and not easily give our complete trust. Moreover, whether it is love or friendship, it requires both parties to maintain it together. One-sided dedication will not last long." The host asked again, "What would you like to say to those women who are suffering from betrayal and hurt?" I looked at the camera and said, word by word, "I want to tell them, don't be afraid, don't back down, and don't punish yourselves for the mistakes of others. When you encounter problems, learn to use legal weapons to protect yourselves. When you are hurt, learn to heal yourselves. Remember, a woman's greatest support is not a man, nor a friend, but herself. Only when you are strong can you avoid being bullied and take control of your own life." After the interview aired, Home for Rebirth received more calls for help, as well as numerous donations and supplies. Many people were touched by my experiences and beliefs and actively joined the public welfare cause. Seeing more and more people paying attention to the protection of women's rights, my heart was filled with hope. At the end of that year, the company held an annual meeting. At the meeting, the employees wrote and directed a skit about my story, from being betrayed and imprisoned to faking my death and escaping, and then starting a new company and a charity. When the skit depicted me writing my will in prison and deciding to fake my death to escape, many employees in the audience were moved to tears. At the end of the annual meeting, all the employees went on stage together, bowed to me, and said in unison, "President Lin, thank you. You have shown us what perseverance and responsibility are. We will follow you in the future, work hard, and do good deeds." Looking at these lovely employees below the stage, my eyes welled up. I walked onto the stage, picked up the microphone, and said, "Actually, I should be thanking you all. It is your trust and support that has given me the courage to get to where I am today. I once thought that revenge was the only goal in my life. But now I realize that true strength is not about trampling enemies underfoot, but about being able to maintain kindness and after experiencing betrayal and hurt, and still being able to strive to help others." After the annual meeting, I stood alone in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the office, watching the fireworks in the sky outside. This year, I not only achieved a leap in my career but also found the true meaning of life. I remembered the determination when I took the poison in the prison cell, the thrill of escaping death, and the hardships on the road to revenge. If I had really chosen to commit suicide back then, I wouldn't have all of this today. I took out my phone and found the photo of the suicide note I wrote back then. The words, "I don't owe anyone, you owe me," were still clear, but now, I no longer dwell on who owes whom. The past hurts, though painful, have also made me grow, making me realize that the most important thing in life is not to take revenge on others, but to live a wonderful life of my own. One day, I received a letter from a prison, written by a man. In the letter, he described in detail his reflections in prison, saying that he finally understood how wrong he was back then. He also mentioned that he participated in reading activities in prison and learned a lot. He wants to do some public welfare undertakings after he gets out to make up for his mistakes. After reading the letter, I didn't reply, but simply put it in the drawer. I didn't expect him to really make up for anything, but I hoped he was truly repentant. After all, in a lifetime, everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is to know how to repent and learn to take responsibility for your mistakes. Now, I live a very fulfilling life every day. In the morning, I go to the company to handle affairs and discuss work with the employees. In the afternoon, I go to Rebirth Home to chat with the beneficiaries and learn about their situations. In the evening, I read books, or have dinner and chat with Mr. Chen, Uncle Lee, and others. I no longer focus all my energy on love and friendship like I used to, but have learned to enjoy life and to love myself. Someone asked me, now that I'm so successful, have I ever thought about finding a partner again? I smiled and said, fate is something that should be left to nature. I'm really enjoying living alone right now, but of course, if I meet the right person, I won't refuse, but I won't make the same mistake as before, treating a man as my whole world. Women, no matter what, must remain independent. Only with independence can you have true happiness. Looking back on my experiences, I would like to offer a few suggestions. First, be sure to keep your eyes open when making friends. Don't easily trust others, and especially don't reveal all your cards to them. People's hearts are hidden behind their skin, and not everyone is worth your wholehearted devotion. Second, when you're in a relationship, keep a clear head and don't let love cloud your judgment. True love is about mutual respect, mutual trust, and mutual support, not one-sided giving and sacrifice. Furthermore, no matter how great the difficulties and setbacks you encounter, never give up on yourself. Life is like a road, and it is inevitable to encounter bumps and mud. But as long as you keep walking, you will surely see the sunlight. Even if betrayed by the person you trust most, do not give up on yourself. Learn to pick up the weapon of law to protect yourself, and believe that justice will always come. Finally, learn to be tolerant and let go. Hatred will only plunge you into an abyss of pain. Only by letting go of hatred can you truly be free. Of course, letting go is not forgiving, but no longer allowing those who hurt you to affect your life. What you need to do is work hard to improve yourself, make yourself stronger, and use your success to prove how foolish the choices of those who betrayed you were. Now, I am no longer the innocent and easily hurt little girl I used to be. I have experienced darkness and seen the light. I have been betrayed and treated with sincerity. I know that life is not always smooth sailing, and only through wind and rain can you see a rainbow. The road ahead is still long. And I will continue to move forward with my original intention and kindness. I believe that as long as I stick to my original heart and keep my feet on the ground, my life will be even more wonderful, and Home of Rebirth will help more women find their own path to rebirth. Alright? That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. We'll keep updating with more exciting stories, and we look forward to seeing you next time.